I was living on the 6th floor of a loft building on 6th Street in San Pedro in Skid Row. It's sort of ground zero. Skid Row is basically a 50-block area of downtown Los Angeles between 2nd and 7th Streets and Main and Central Streets, with 9,000 people in varied states of homelessness. Psych patients, crack addicts, heroin addicts, soccer moms and gangsters, artists, Agent Orange vets, the missions, the welfare hotels, the real estate investors, the parolees, the dealers, the sex offenders, and the issues. Housing, racism, employment, addiction, mental health. There's a lot going on in 50 square blocks. I wrote a series of cover stories for the LA Weekly. LAPD Police Chief Bratton told me it was the worst social disaster in America. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's definition of homelessness includes a person who has no place to go, no resources to obtain housing, and is either being evicted within a week, discharged within a week from an institution such as a hospital, or is fleeing domestic violence. The average age of a homeless person living in the U.S. is 9 years old, 3.5 million people. That's 1.35 million children. In LA County, 80,000 homeless each night. Los Angeles is the first third world city in the United States. Some people are here to take advantage of the centralized services. The huge homeless mega shelter missions who provide meals, emergency shelter, showers, haircuts and shaves, mail delivery, legal assistance, 12-step recovery programs, medical, dental, housing placement assistance, and social service liaison. Skid Row is home to other populations as well. An undercover criminal sect hiding out, and a predatory population selling drugs and preying upon the legitimate residents. I've been in the streets and the missions, and I knew people's names and their faces. I was watching the madness play itself out in the streets from my window. I started shooting some video from a little handy cam. That was the view from up here. I hit the streets and discovered that what was a frightening sight from a moving car was actually a community of people. So what is it that makes Los Angeles Skid Row unique? The scope of it and the proximity to the financial district? The five-star hotels and the street sleepers butted right up against each other? The fact that it's predominantly black? How could all of this be happening in one of the richest economies in the country? The measure of any society is how it treats its weakest element, the widows, the orphans, and the strangers in the land. How we do anything is how we do everything. We're not doing so well on Skid Row. The average age of a homeless person living in the U.S. is 9 years old, 3.5 million people. That's 1.35 million children. Kids are on Skid Row because their parents are here. Eviction, spousal abuse, poverty, personal crisis, physical and mental illness or disability, substance abuse, lost jobs, domestic violence, cuts in public assistance programs, lack of affordable housing. Dad went to prison, mom strung out, grandma's had enough, nowhere to go, no one to help. Welcome to Skid Row. Franklin came of age in the mouth of madness. Franklin's special. He has a sort of charmed life. He's assumed the mantle of the voice of disenfranchised kids on Skid Row in LA.
You saw the mother get killed. Yeah.
He's been on CNN and NBC and Montel Williams and Tyra Banks.
They seem like regular kids, but 15-year-old Franklin and his sister, 13-year-old Egypt, are a couple of teenagers living on Skid Row.
Franklin was living at the Ford Hotel with his mom, his 3 older sisters, and his little brother Jojo in 2 rooms. Crack addicts, sex offenders, mentally ill, armed guards. The Ford Hotel is a notorious nightmare.
Hey, look at that. Look at the ropes coming out. God. Oh, God. See
one of the worst parts of downtown. She lived next door to them at the Ford, his neighbor Doris, and Franklin watched her murdered from the balcony.
We just seen her running, and the guy caught her and started stabbing her. I think she got like stabbed 17 times, 16 times.
Franklin was 14.
While the dude was stabbing her, people were surrounding her, but no one was helping her.
How do you process something like that when you're 14? What do you do with all of it? I don't begin to know, but especially if you're Franklin and you're smart and you're aware and you're not high, if you're present. Instead of picking up a pipe or gun, Franklin picked up a camera.
After that, I wanted to do a candlelight visual for her and get it on film, and then I just started interviewing people.
He's a filmmaker. He's got a show on World of Wonder. It's a web series. They gave him a really great video camera. Franklin goes out and shoots, and they put it up on the website.
I ain't trying to turn this into a race issue. Every motherfucker down here is black.
She hit me first and cracked my head open.
You all right?
Yeah.
Hey, been up there by them big, pretty buildings? It's white. All that money, all this poorness. All that money, all this poorness.
Franklin's internalized Skid Row. He owns it, he defends it as his cause, and he represents it. Skid Row has transformed Franklin into an activist.
Crime is the only business. It's all about drugs, money. Ain't no motherfucking opportunities out here for us.
Franklin has a lot of people's attention.
I've been working with Franklin to get ready to go back to school.
Esteban Martinez is the Downtown Regional Coordinator for School on Wheels, a non-profit that goes out into the welfare hotels and the missions to teach. He's been assigned to Franklin's case.
He needs extra help. He needs somebody there that's going to be working with him one-on-one.
A lot of the teenagers slip through the cracks down here.
Most kids that live downtown have usually stopped going to school eventually.
They're in the welfare hotels, the missions, the after-school programs. The older ones just hanging out.
Who's this guy?
He won't tell me. Right now he's saying his name's nobody.
I just told you the name.
Is it DJ?
The kids down there are desperate for adult male contact.
This is him when he first came in. He came in, he's like, I don't know you. I'm not telling you my name. Stood here for like 35 minutes. Just waiting for somebody to pay attention.
Skid Row is a state of mind. For a kid, it's a shameful secret. You're not going to tell the other kids at school that you live in the mission.
How old were you first time you ended up in the mission? First time you came to Skid Row? 12.
I've been here to catch my life.
What'd you think?
Huh? That was the worst place to be.
Families just grow up in this and have kids, and the kids grow up in it, and they kind of just replicate the cycle.
This hurts my little baby.
These kids were at risk before they were born. It's transgenerational poverty.
JoJo was pretty much born down there. That's his whole life.
They finally got their own place. It's in South Central. It's not great. It's a whole other kind of war zone, but at least they're on the grid.
I started school today after I've been messing up at school.
He has plans of going on to college, but he's been so far behind. He's missed school. I don't know how much, a long time at school.
He knows it could go horribly wrong for him in the sense that if he doesn't find a way to have a functional life, he's going to manifest the cyclical poverty thing and end up right back there. The deck is stacked.